Okay, last time we are talking about two-dimensional particle in a box, and the wave function requires two quantum numbers. Two-dimensional particle in a box. And I'm going to visualize the quantum mechanical state as the lattice points in two-dimensional space. X-axis represents the nx quantum number, y-axis represents y quantum number, and nx and y takes only integer number, so it can be represented lattice point. So for this point, represents quantum mechanical state nx equal 1 and ni equal 1 are represented by this lattice point. For this one, represents the this quantum mechanical state. So anyway, any quantum mechanical state can be visualized using lattice points. And electron is in the two-dimensional box, and you are going to assume that this box is square, in which Lx equal to L and Ly equal to L. And the electron is in the square box. The energy depends on nx square plus ny square. So I'm going to draw circle with a constant radius, and the points on the circle have all the same energy, because energy only depends on nx square plus ni square. But these points on the circle, the nx square and ni square is all the same. So this point has all the same energy. It means that this quantum mechanical state is degenerate. And if we count the number of states on the points on the circle, it is degeneracy. Now move on to three-dimensional. Now electron is on the three-dimensional box. So similarly, the quantum mechanical state can be described by wave function, and the wave function depends on three quantum numbers, nx, ny, and g. Similarly, I can represent the quantum mechanical state as a lattice points in the three-dimensional space. In three-dimensional space, we have lattice point like this. And I can draw sphere. And on the sphere, there's a lattice point exists. So similar to two-dimensional case, all the points on the circle has the same energy. So number of points corresponds to the degeneracy of the system. Now we are going to put another electron. First electron and two electron. Now the two electrons are placed in the box. Then how many quantum numbers are needed to represent two electron system? Actually, we use 6 quantum numbers. nx1, ni1, ng1 represents the quantum mechanical state of first electron, and we have another 6 quantum number are needed to represent this electron. So total of 6 quantum numbers are needed to represent two electrons. Now to generalize this, now we have n electrons are placed in the box, then how many quantum numbers are needed to represent the quantum mechanical state? Definitely 3n quantum numbers are needed to represent the n electrons. So just imagine the 3n dimensional space. So just imagine a 3-dimensional space. This is a 3-dimensional space. In 3-dimensional space, we have lattice spin, and we are going to imagine a sphere in 3-dimensional space. Similar to a 3-dimensional case, the points on the sphere in 3-dimensional space all have same energy. So when you count the number of states on this sphere, it corresponds to degeneracy. To represent the degeneracy, I'm going to use letter G. G refers to the degeneracy of the system. Now, this G is very, very important in thermodynamics. You may learn in last year, according to Boltzmann, entropy can be expressed using this expression. This formula suggested by statistical mechanics Boltzmann. This is entropy, this is Boltzmann constant, this is the number of states. In terms of quantum mechanics, this omega is exactly like this degeneracy, right? So if you know the degeneracy, this degeneracy is plugging into this omega, then you can determine the entropy. So this is very, very important. So now we have box, and in the box there are n electrons, so n particles are placed in the box, and the quantum mechanical state is displayed in the 3-dimensional space, and we count the number of, if we count the number of points on the sphere, we can determine the degeneracy. And mathematicians find the formula for G. According to them, the formula looks like this. This refers to the number of points on a sphere, in a 3-dimensional sphere. According to their formula, G is equal to, here E represents the energy and represents the number of particles. V means the volume of the box, and this is the some form of function of particle number, just a constant. Okay, this is the formula suggested by mathematician, and I'm going to put this formula into Boltzmann's formula. So I'm going to calculate the entropy of the box. So it's equal, when we put this formula to here, first term and second term, Vn, and finally this is the entropy of our system. Now, as you can see, the entropy is a function of energy, and it is also a function of volume, and it is also a function of number of particles. So entropy is a function of number of particles, volume, and energy. So I'm going to take a derivative as with respect to energy. according to statistical mechanics, this derivative is defined as 1 over, this is a definition according to statistical mechanics. Now, I'm going to take a derivative s with respect to e. The first term does not have e, so derivative of this first term is 0. Second term does not also have energy, so the derivative must be 0. When you take a derivative of the third term, it is equal to when ln is, when you take a derivative, it is equal to 1 over t. And nkb, this is Boltzmann constant, this is number of particles, is equal to nr. So this one is equal to nr. But this one is, according to the definition of statistical mechanics, 1 over t. So when you rearrange this equation, you obtain so you may be familiar with this formula. This one generally appeared when you follow the Boltzmann's definition. And this time we take a derivative with respect to e. Now I'm going to take a derivative with respect to v. Then what happens? According to statistical mechanics, when you take a derivative s with respect to v, it is defined as t over p over t. This is the definition of this term. So this term does not have v, so when you take a derivative, it is 0. This term has no v term, so when you take a derivative with v, this term of 0. When you take a derivative with respect to v, it is equal to n kv, and ln v is 1 over v. Okay, so similarly nkv is equal to nr. So this one is defined as p over t. So when you rearrange this equation, pv equal nRT. This equation is also very familiar to you. So I want to stress that in statistical mechanics, if you know entropy, you can obtain everything. You can know everything about the system only if you know entropy. But according to Boltzmann, entropy are related to omega, but in terms of quantum mechanics, omega comes from degeneracy. This one comes from degeneracy. So degeneracy is very, very important in statistical mechanics. Okay, now I'm going to complete chapter 4. Now let's move on chapter 5. Up to now, we solved this Schrödinger equation. Okay. Now, electron is in the atom. So, in the center nucleus, so electron face attraction due to nucleus. So potential energy, if there are no nucleus, the electron moves in a three-dimensional space. So we need this term. Because electron moves in a three-dimensional space, and in addition to that, electron feels experience nuclear attraction. So potential term must be here, right? So potential is equal to right. This is R. Instead of R is equal to this is the potential term. This one must be plugging into this one. This is the Schrödinger equation for the hydrogen atom. So we must solve this Schrödinger equation to obtain the wave function for the hydrogen atom. But and the electron moves in the three-dimensional space. The mathematical form of hydrogen orbital looks like this. It depends on x, y, z variable because it moves in three-dimensional space. But this is the Cartesian coordinate, rectangular coordinate. To describe the electron in the sulfuric hydrogen atom, it is not convenient. Say, for example, this is a two-dimensional space, and particles moves in the straight line. Then to describe the motion of this particle, we are going to use rectangular coordinate and Cartesian coordinate. It is convenient to describe the motion which moves in a straight line. But what happens when particles moves in a circle? Then to describe the motion which is on a circular motion, it is more convenient to use polar coordinate is more convenient variable to instead of rectangular coordinate. Of course, we can describe the motion on a circle using rectangular coordinate. It is also possible, but it is more convenient. It is more natural to use polar coordinate when the electrons moves in a circular motion. Similarly, the electron moves in a three-dimensional space. We can describe the wave function using rectangular coordinate or Cartesian coordinate. But the electron experiences potential energy. The potential energy is actually spherically symmetric. So in this case, instead of using the rectangular coordinate, it is more useful or convenient to use polar coordinate instead of rectangular coordinate. This is a more natural way to represent the wave function of electrons in a spherically symmetric potential. So we are going to use this wave function to represent the hydrogen orbital. And with three variables, when you solve Schrödinger equation, three quantum number appears. So in this case also, we obtain three quantum numbers, which is N, L, ML quantum number appears when you solve Schrödinger equation. And the quantum numbers are not arbitrary number. It has constraints. For example, a particle in a three-dimensional box, the nx, ni, ng cannot take arbitrary number. For example, nx can take only 1, 2, 3, etc. This is a limitation, a constraint the nx can take. Similarly, this quantum number cannot take any arbitrary number. It has limitation or constraint. For example, n can take only 1, 2, etc. Only integer value is possible. For L, n is given, L can take only 0, 1, etc. This value is only possible. For ML, when L is given, ML take plus 1, 0, minus 1. This is a constraint on ML. This constraint comes from the solving differential equation. So this is our wave function. Now, I'm going to talk about the physical meaning of these three quantum numbers. First, the principal quantum number. In three-dimensional particle in a box, wave function depends on three quantum numbers, and energy also depends on three quantum number. And for particle in a three-dimensional box, it is equal to nx square, ny square, ng square. For generally speaking, energy depends all of them, nx, ny, ng. Or similarly, wave function depends on three quantum numbers, so energy of hydrogen atom also depends on n, l, mn, generally speaking. But as I said before, hydrogen atom is very, very unique. It is spherically symmetric system. So in this case, energy only depends on n. So expression is like this. Energy does not depends on n, l, and ml. This is unique. Why? Because the hydrogenic atom is spherically symmetric. Okay. So principal, if you know the principal quantum number, you can determine the energy of the electron. Now input a point here. L is called angular momentum quantum number. Take a two sheet. This quantum number is called angular momentum quantum number. Once you know L, you can calculate the angular momentum. Now, in atom, electrons revolve around the nucleus, so the electron can have angular momentum, and angular momentum is a vector quantity. So angular momentum square is equal to L plus 1 h bar square. Okay. So once you know L quantum number, you can calculate the angular momentum squared. Okay. So for example, here 1s, 2s, and 2p. And the electron is 1s orbital or 2s orbital with quantum number 0. I'm going to compare the s orbital with p orbital. What is the magnitude of quantum number when the electron is in the p orbital? The angular momentum quantum number L equal 1 for p orbital. So when you put what L equal 1 into this equation, the angular momentum, magnitude of angular momentum is square root h bar. Right? How about s orbital? And the electron is in the s orbital, quantum number L equals 0. So when you put the L equals 0, angular momentum is 0. So when the electron is in a s orbital, 1s or 2s orbital, there are no angular momentum. Using this fact, you can explain very crucial observation. As I said earlier, when the electron is 1s orbital, and if we electron in a 1s orbital make a transition to higher level, 2p orbital is allowed, but this transition is forbidden, as I said before. But this observation can be explained using this simple fact, using conservation of angular momentum. First, this process is forbidden because this process violates angular momentum conservation. Now assume that electron initially is in the 1s orbital, but as I said before, the electron in the 1s orbital has no angular momentum, and I'm going to irradiate light, a photon. I'm going to shoot a photon to excite the electron from 1s to 2s orbital. Light is particle, so this particle has angular momentum. Light particle or photon is particle, so it has angular momentum. Now, if the electron in 1s orbital absorbs light, so the electron must care for angular momentum, but the electron must, when the electron make a transition to 2s orbital, but 2s orbital has also doesn't have angular momentum, but light is observed. Then, when the electron make a transition from 1s to 2s orbital, the observed light photon, observed light angular momentum disappears. Understand? Initially there are angular momentum of light observed, but the final angular momentum is also zero. Then the angular momentum of light disappeared. So this process violates angular momentum conservation process. So this process is not allowed because this process violates angular momentum conservation. So this is not allowed. But this process is okay because in this process, p state has angular momentum. So angular momentum of light is transferred to the angular momentum of p orbital. So this process is allowed process. So anyway, so L quantum number, once you know the L quantum number, you can calculate the magnitude of angular momentum vector. Now, third quantum number, this one is called magnetic quantum number. Now, as I said earlier, angular momentum is a vector, so it has a direction, so it has a component Lx, Ly, Lg component. ML component, once you know ML component, you can calculate the Lg, which is the G component or component of angular momentum. So formula looks like this. So once you know the angular ML quantum number, you can calculate the G component of angular momentum. Now, p orbital consists of 3 orbitals. So it's L equal 1, ML equal 1, 0, minus. Now, electron now in this orbital, quantum number L equal 1, ML equal 1. I'm going to visualize the angular momentum vector of the electron which are in L equal 1, ML equal 1 state. This is the angular momentum vector for the electron which are in this state. The magnitude of this angular momentum vector is square root 2h bar, and the G component, which is the projection onto the g-axis, this is Lg, equal h bar, because ml equal 1. When you ml equal 1, this is the h bar. So this is the angular momentum vector of the electron which are in this state. Then what happens when the electron in a ml equal 0 state? When you draw the vector, it looks like this. Magnitude is still square root 2h bar, but when ml equals 0, Lg equals 0. So it means that this vector must be perpendicular to G component. So this is the ml equals 0. For ml equal minus 1, it is opposite side. So this is ml equal 1 state, 0 state, minuses. Only this direction is possible. So according to this formula, we can say that the magnitude of angular momentum is quantized, right? And for the second formula, the direction of angular momentum is also quantized. Only this direction or this direction is possible. this one is not allowed. On direction is also quantized. Now, can you determine the angle between the angular momentum vector and the g-axis? This form a right triangle. So the hypotenuse is square root 2h bar. This side is h bar. So you can determine the theta, angle between angular momentum vector and the g component. Now, once you know ml quantum number, you can determine the g component of angular momentum. Then what happens? Lx and Ly. You can, if you know ml quantum number, all the information on Lx and Ly lose. This is related to uncertainty principle. According to uncertainty principle, for example, delta x times delta p is larger than over h bar. So if we know precisely x, then uncertainty of x decrease. Then what happens to delta p? This one goes to infinity. If you know precisely x, then the delta p goes to infinity. All the information about p disappears when you precisely know the x. And these two variables are conjugate to each other in terms of uncertainty principle. Similarly, this variable and Lx and Ly is also conjugate variable. LG H bar. Okay. These two variables are also conjugate variable. If we know exactly delta G, so when the uncertainty in delta G decrease, the uncertainty of delta X increase. When you precisely know the LG, it goes to infinity. In this case, ML is given, L is defined precisely. So delta LG goes to 0 because LG is given. It is precisely known. So the uncertainty about Lx goes to infinity. So you don't know anything about Lx. Similar situation applies to also Ly. So to describe this situation, you can see the picture on the right colored cone. So for ml equal 1, the angular momentum vector this is the cone. We can say that for ml equal 1, the angular momentum vector lies on the cone. Specifically not this one. The angular momentum vector may be on the cone. Okay? The vector on the cone shares two things. First one, all the vector in this cone, magnitude is all the same. Square root 2h bar. And the magnitude of G component all the same, h bar. But we don't know about Lx and Ly. So we can determine which vector are oriented. Right? So to represent the ml equal 1 state, we are going to draw cone. Similarly, for ml equal -1, we also draw cone. The vector may be on the somewhere on the cone. For ml equal 0, we can draw circle. Okay. Now, for the name of this quantum number, magnetic. Why do we call this quantum number called magnetic? I will explain this. So for ml equal 1, we have three angular momentum vector. For numerical one state, electron rotate about this axis for numerical one state. When the electron is equal m equal 0 state, the electron rotate around this axis for m equal minus 1 state. But electron is a charged particle. When the electron rotate around this axis, the electron generate magnetic field. So electron can be thought of as the tiny magnet which are oriented in this direction. For electron which is in m equal 0 state, the electron behaves like a small magnet which are oriented in this direction. So, but when the electron or atom is in a vacuum, this state has same energy. It does not depend on the orientation of the magnet when the electron is alone in the empty space. So, one s orbital, 3p orbital has same energy because electron is alone. It does not depend on the orientation of the magnet. So all the 3p orbital are degenerate, has same energy. But when external magnetic field is applied, strong magnetic field is applied, then the situation is different. Then given the external magnetic field, the energy depends on orientation of magnet. Now, so this one feels repulsion. This one feels experience attraction. So this energy are no longer same. This energy level split. Okay. According to ML quantum number. Now, when there are no magnetic field, we can observe the transition from 2p to 1s state. We can observe actually 3 transition, 1, 2, 3. But 3 transition occurs at same frequency because all the 3 energy levels are same. So you only observe single peak, even though 3 transition is allowed. Because the 3p orbitals are degenerate, we observe only single peak. But when the magnetic field is applied, p orbitals are split into 2 levels. What happened to 1s orbital? S orbital has no angular momentum, so S orbital is not magnet. So it does not respond to the magnetic field. So 1s orbital level of energy level does not change. It does not depend on the magnetic field. So we observe this peak, this peak, this peak when magnetic field is applied. So this peak split it into 3 peaks. 1, 2, 3. This is where magnetic field is not applied. But when the magnetic field is applied, this peak split into 3 peaks. This phenomenon is called Zeeman effect. Zeeman effect provides direct evidence, experimental evidence that ML quantum number exists. Right? So we are going to use the term magnetic because ML quantum number appears when we apply magnetic field. Okay. Now, so wave function depends on N, L, M, L, and is a function of R, theta, phi. Now, we are going to obtain this wave function by solving Schrödinger equation. The Schrödinger equation very difficult to solve, so we are going to see what the solution looks like. Now, before solving Schrödinger equation, we are going to assume that this function can be expressed as as a product of two functions, radial function and angular function. Before solving the Schrödinger equation, we are assumed that this function can be expressed as a product of two functions. This function is called radial function because this function depends only on r. This function is called angular part because this function depends on angle, right? And when you solve Schrödinger equation, it turns out that radial function depends on two quantum number and L. And this angular part depends on L. Okay. Now I'm going to check the number of nodes and symmetry. Of this wave function. First, I'm going to check symmetry. As you know, you are familiar with the atomic orbital. When L equals 0, which is S orbital, looks like this. For L equals 1, it is P orbital, and L equals 2, it is D orbital. The shape of this atomic orbital only depends on the angular part, not depends on radial part. So, as you can see, this function, it has even parity. This function has odd parity. This function has even parity. So, it is consistent that for hydrogenic atomic orbital, even and odd parity alternate according to L quantum number. Now let's move on. Number of nodes. Number of nodes defined as the points where the wave function becomes 0. But our wave function can be expressed as a product of two functions. So there are two kinds of nodes exist. First, radial node. In its radial function becomes 0. Second type is the angular node. In its angular function is 0. So there are two kinds of nodes exist: radial node and angular node. First, check the angular node. Angular wave function looks like this. But before, check the number of angular nodes. In one-dimensional box, the wave function looks like this. This is a node. This is a node. In one-dimensional box, this node is just a nodal point. This is points in one-dimensional box. But what happens in two-dimensional box? In two-dimensional box, we draw this function. In class, we do this wave function. This wave function looks like this. Two lines. Because nx equals 3. For n equal 2. This is the wave function for 2D box. Positive, negative, positive, negative, positive. This is the nodal point, right? In two-dimensional box, the line on this, the points on this line are nodal points. The nodal points forms a line. So in 2D box, we are going to say nodal line. We have three nodal lines for this wave function. So one-dimensional box, we can define nodal points. Two-dimensional box, we can say nodal line. Then what happens in three-dimensional box? three-dimensional case, we are going to define nodal plane. We are going to count the number of nodal plane. For px orbital with in its n equal 1, this is the nodal plane. Okay, which is perpendicular to the this board. This is the nodal plane. When the nodal plane forms a plane which is perpendicular. This is a nodal plane. So we have one nodal plane for p orbital or L equal 1 orbital. How about d orbital? We have two nodal plane. This direction. This is a nodal plane and second plane here. So we have two nodal plane. How about this orbital? There are no nodal plane. So 0. So number of nodal plane is exactly equal to the angular momentum constant number, right? So the number of angular nodal plane is equal to L, right? Now let's move on to radial nodal. Here, in this handout, this part, bottom right, I have listed a series of functions. For R50, R51, R52, etc. So here rho is equal to R. Rho is proportional to R. Consider rho is proportional to R. So in this equation, is R force. So R41, this is R square R1. For R2, so this function listed the contour number n equal 5. All the function listed here is principal contour number is equal 5. Then what's the degree of the polynomial? The degree of this function is 4. Degree of this function is also 4 because this is the degree of 3 times r to the 1. So fourth degree. This one r to the 2, r to the 2. So the degree of this polynomial is 4. So all the function for n equal 4 is fourth power. Okay. Then according to the definition of node, the nodal point is equal to the points where the wave function becomes 0. When you solve this equation, how many roots are obtained? 4 solutions you obtain, right? When you solve to obtain nodal points, you are going to solve this equation, but all the functions are fourth power, so we have 4 solutions obtained, right? But nodal plane must satisfy 2 conditions. First condition is this one, wave function must be 0. But second condition is that the function value must change. Okay. But in this case, we have 4 solutions. 3 solution comes from this part, and 1 solution is 0, right? This one is not nodal point because nodal point must satisfy the requirement that the function value must change. But at this point, the function cannot change. So this point is not nodal point. So in this case, the number of nodes is 4. But in this case, even though it is fourth power, the number of nodes is 3. How about this one? This part we have 2 solutions, but here 2 solutions corresponds to r equals 0. This one is not nodal points. So we have only 2 nodal points. So decrease when L contour number, this is L contour number. When L contour number increase, number of nodal points decrease. So generally speaking, for R and L, this wave function are n minus 1 power polynomial. So when you solve the equation, you obtain n minus 1 roots, right? But all the roots are not nodal points because some root have r equals 0. This one must be excluded. The number of excluded point depends on the L quantum number. So you must minus L is needed. So this is the number of radial node for this radial function. So final conclusion. The number of radial node, this one. This is the number of radial node. This is the angular node. When you sum two nodes, it is equal to n minus 1. So as you can see, as the number of nodes increase, energy also increase. Now on this handout, you have colored picture of the atomic orbital. You are familiar with 1s orbital and 2p orbital. But how about 2s orbital and 3p orbital? The shape of 2s orbital, this is color change. Okay. This is minus sign positive, blue color negative, right? So in the region between the plus region and minus region, you have white region. This is angular node. I'm sorry, radial node. Radial node exists between two regions. In 1s orbital, there are no radial node. 2s orbital, there are one radial node exists. Shape is same, geometrically symmetric. But in 2s orbital, one radial node appears. It changes sign, minus to plus. This white region corresponds to radial node. Then what happens to 3p orbital? In 2p orbital, there are no radial node. Why? Number of radial node is equal to n minus 1 minus L. For 2p orbital, n equal 2, L equal 1, so equal 0, right? So for 2p orbital, there are no radial node. But how about 3p orbital? For 3p orbital, n equals 3. So number of radial node is 1. There are one radial node exists in 3p orbital. So as you can see on the right, this is a 3p orbital, but radial node exists between the two regions. So plus, minus, minus, plus. So this is the shape of 3p orbital. You must remember that in 3p orbital, radial node cut through this rope. Okay. So remember. And I'm going to compare radial distribution function rs0, rs1. This orbital is 2s orbital. This orbital is 3s orbital, 3p orbital. I am going to draw the radial function for 2s, 3s, and 3p. The number of nodes is different for 3s and 3p. For R30, so R31, p orbital. So there are two differences between R2s, 3s orbital and 3p orbital. For 3p orbital, we have only one radial node exists. But 3s orbital, we have two radial point exit. This is the first difference. And second difference is that the function value at r equals 0 is different. For 3p orbital, the function value at r equals 0 is 0, right? But this is not node, okay? But for 3s orbital, when r equals 0, it has non-zero value. This is a big difference between p orbital and s orbital. So we can say that for 3s orbital, the probability of being found near the nucleus is higher for 3s orbital compared to the 3p orbital. So this is very important for multi-electron system. For single electron system, for 1s orbital, 3s and 3p is the same for single electron. But what about the multi-electron system? The energy level of 3s orbital is lower than 3p orbital. Why? Because this one. The probability of being found near nucleus is higher for 3s orbital compared to 3p orbital. So 3s orbital experience more nucleophilic attraction compared to the 3p orbital. So the effective nuclear charge for 3s orbital is higher, larger than the 3p orbital, because 3s orbital has a higher probability being found near nucleus. So the effective nuclear charge for 3s orbital is larger than the 3p orbital. So in multi-electron system, 3s orbital energy level is lower than 3p orbital. Now, for L equal 1 orbital, L equal 1 orbital, we have 3 orbital. 1, 0, minus 1. But last year you already learned 2p orbital has 2px, 2py, 2pg orbital, which are dumbbell shape. You are familiar with this orbital. Now in general chemistry course, we learn 3 L equal 1 orbital. But two sets of this orbital is not same. It is different. Actually, 2pg orbital are identical to 2pg orbital. These two orbitals is the same. But 2px orbital is not equal to ml equal 1 orbital. It is different. Actually, 2px orbital is the sum of this orbital. This one means that ml equal 1 orbital, ml equal minus orbital. This one is not equal to this one. Actually, this orbital are sum of these two orbitals. Okay, different. Now I will tell you the reason why. When we solve the one-dimensional particle in a box, we solve this Schrödinger equation. In solving the Schrödinger equation, we solve this kind of Schrödinger equation. And at the time, I said the solution to this Schrödinger equation has two particular solutions, sine kx and cosine kx. And the general solution of this this differential equation is a linear combination of these two particular solutions. This is the general solution of this differential equation. But some students come up with another solution. He claimed that the particular solution of this differential equation is exponential ikx. and the other one is exponential minus ikx. This is the particular solution of this this differential equation. And the general solution can be expressed as a linear combination of this solution. So we come up with this solution. Then who is right? According to mathematics, two sets of formula are same, exactly same, equivalent. The function generated by this formula is exactly equal to the function generated by this formula, because according to Euler, he proved that exponential ikx is equal to this formula was proved. So this function can be expressed as linear combination of this one. So this equation is equivalent to this equation mathematically. So all of them are solution. But to represent the solution of this differential equation, we are going to use real valued function. But in this case, they are used complex valued function. But two formula is exactly equivalent in mathematical perspective. Now, this one is same situation. When you solve the Schrödinger equation for the hydrogen atom, you can express the solution using real valued function. This is the real valued function. But this is a complex valued function. But anyway, this function represents all the same set of functions. So in the handout, we can list this function, which are complex functions. For example, y11 is equal to exponential ip sine theta exponential minus ip sine theta y10 sine theta. Okay. So this function are listed in your textbook. You can see this function is a real function. But actually, when you solve Schrödinger equation, this function appears, which is complex. But when you add these two functions, it is equal to 2px over there. So anyway, two functions exactly represent the same set of functions. But there's a big difference between m equal 1 orbital and 2px orbital. So I will compare the electron in the m equal 1 orbital and the electron in the 2px orbital. Now electron is in the 2px orbital and one orbital. I'll compare. Now I'm going to measure the energy of the electron in the 2px orbital, and I'm going to measure the energy of the electron in this orbital. But both energy depends on n, right? So if principal quantum number is defined, energy is defined. So both of them have definite quantum number n. This is what n equal to. So when you measure the energy of the electron, you have consistent value of energy. The energy is corresponds to this one. You have obtained consistent value of energy obtained whenever you measure the energy of the electron. How about angular momentum amplitude? When you measure the angular momentum amplitude, what is the result? As I said before, energy depends on quantum number n. Angular momentum quantum number, magnitude of angular momentum quantum number depends on L. So if L is defined, you can determine the angular momentum quantum number. For this case, L equal 1. So you can obtain consistent measurement value. Always you obtain this value. Similarly, in this case, L equal 1 is defined. So you have always measurement is this value, consistent value. Now finally, what happens when you measure G component of angular momentum? For this orbital, when the electron is in this orbital, what is the result of the measurement? Lg can be defined only if ml is known. If ml is defined, you can calculate the Lg. In this case, Lg is plus h. So when the electron is in this orbital, you obtain consistent result of the measurement. Always you obtain plus h bar because Lg equal ml h bar. If ml is defined, Lg is defined. You always obtain plus h bar. The problem is this orbital. What happens when you measure the angular momentum G component when the electron is in the 2px orbital? What would the result? In this case, they give not consistent value. It depends on measurement. Every time the result is different. Sometimes you obtain plus h, but sometimes you obtain minus h. 50-50%. Why? For this orbital, ml is not defined. Why? As I said before, 2px orbital is the sum of these two orbitals. ml equal 1 orbital and ml equal minus 1. So 2px orbital is a superposition or sum of two orbitals. So in this orbital, ml is not defined. ml is not defined. It is a mixture of or superposition of ml equal 1 and minus 1 orbital. 50-50%. So the experimental result gives this graph. 50%, 50%. But when the electron is in this orbital, you always obtain consistent value plus h value. So move on to d orbital. Now we have 5 d orbitals, but as you know, this q orbital has unique in the respect of shape. All the other orbital have similar shape, which has 4 rows. They share similar shape. Although the orientation is different, the shape is the same. They have 4 rows. But as you know, this orbital is quite different from this orbital. The shape of this orbital looks like this. This shape is very different from this one. Actually, this orbital is sum of 2 orbitals. Actually, this orbital is just sum of this orbital. What's the shape of this orbital? This orbital also has 4 rows. This orbital also has 4 rows. When you add these 2 orbitals, this shape in the g direction is same. But in the xy plane, x direction and y direction is perpendicular to each other. when you add these two functions, you obtain donut-shaped function, which is this square orbital. So this one is equal to y square. So you might ask, then out of 5 diopters, this one stands out strange. So instead of using 5 diopters, how about using 6 diopters to form a diopter? Because all the 6 orbital has the same shape, right? But this orbital has unique, it stands out. So how about using 6 diopter instead of 5 diopter? You might ask, but it is not allowed. The reason is very profound. I'll explain why this set of functions cannot be used as a diopter. We solve this Schrödinger equation. We already solved this Schrödinger equation. When you solve this Schrödinger equation, we obtain a set of functions, infinite set of functions. This is infinite set of functions, your solution to the Schrödinger equation. And according to mathematicians, this set of functions satisfy very, very extraordinary properties. 2 extraordinary properties. First one is called orthonormal. Second property is called complete set. I'm first gonna take a look at orthonormal. Orthonormal is a term which is frequently used in vector analysis. For example, in the 2-dimensional space, we can set 2 basis vector. This is basis vector in 2-dimensional space. The length of this vector is 1, and the 2 vectors are perpendicular to each other. Then these 2 vectors is called orthonormal. Normal means that the length of this vector is 1. Ortho means these 2 vectors is perpendicular. Then this 2 vector is called orthonormal. Then how can we define this? The length of this vector is 1. How do we know these 2 vectors is perpendicular? Because in vector we can define inner product. Because inner product is defined in vector, we can say that 2 vectors are perpendicular, or length of this vector is 1. When 2 vectors when you take up inner product of 2 vectors is equal to 0, it means that 2 vectors is perpendicular each other. When you take inner product of itself and the result is 1, it means that the length of this vector is 1. The length of vector and the perpendicular of 2 vectors are determined by the inner product. If only you can define the inner product, you can say that the vector is perpendicular, or the length of vector can be defined using this concept of inner product. So if we can define inner product on the function, you can also say that the length of this function is 1. This 2 function is perpendicular. Only if you can define inner product of the function. Then how do you define inner product of these 2 functions? It is very simple. Our ith function and jth function's inner product is defined as the following. This is the definition of the inner product of 2 functions. Just multiply 2 functions and integrate. This is the definition of the inner product of 2 functions. Given the definition of this inner product, this function set satisfies orthonormal, which means that the length of this each wave function is 1. how do you know that? For example, how do you calculate the length of this function? The length of this function is psi 1 times psi 1 time, right? Then this is the square, right? Then according to Bond's interpretation, what is this one? What is probability? So when you integrate this squared function, it must be 1 according to Bond's definition. So this condition automatically satisfy for Schrödinger solution to the Schrödinger equation. And we cannot prove that this part. If we take any arbitrary two function, and multiply and integrate, it is shown to be 0. It can be proved using mathematically. So anyway, the solution to Schrödinger equation satisfy this condition, given that the inner product is defined as this. So this property is always satisfied to the solution of Schrödinger equation. And secondly, the complete set. This term is also used in vector analysis. In this two-dimensional case, there is an arbitrary vector f. The arbitrary vector f, and according to mathematician, f vector can be expressed as a linear combination of two vectors. Right? In two-dimensional space, any arbitrary vector can be expressed as a linear combination of two vectors. Then this two vector forms a complete set. But this one can also apply to this solution. What this means is that in the one-dimensional particular box, function is defined between x equals 0, x equals L, and you can define any arbitrary function defined between x equals 0 and x equals L. So this is the arbitrary function. Then this function can be expressed as a linear combination of this function. Okay. If this function satisfies this condition, this one are said to form a complete set. But according to mathematician, this function satisfies this condition. It means that any arbitrary function can be expressed as a linear combination of this function. But okay, so this structure are frequently used in mathematics. For example, you may well know that the exponential x equal to blah blah blah, right? This one can be your So according to this formula, exponential function can be expressed as a linear combination x to the 0, x to the 1, x to the 2. This one can be expressed as linear combination of x0, x to the 0, x to the 1, x to the 2. This one is a sort of complete set. Similar structure appears in the quantum mechanics. Now, this formula is very, very important when we deal with chapter 6. When you construct molecular orbital, this formula is very, very important. Why? In chapter 6, we are going to construct molecular orbital. In this chapter 6, this arbitrary function is actually molecular function. We are going to construct molecular function using this expansion. And this function is a solution to the Schrödinger equation. We are going to use atomic orbital. blah 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 blah. Atomic orbital is a solution to the Schrödinger equation. So any molecular orbital can be constructed from the atomic orbital. So this type of expansion is called LCAO, which represents linear combination of atomic orbital. We are going to construct molecular orbital using atomic orbital. Okay. Now let's move on. Now so why this 6 orbital is impossible? Because as I said before, solution to the Schrödinger equation must satisfy orthonormal condition. It means that you take any arbitrary two function and take an inner product, it must be 0, right? But if you choose 6d orbital, this condition is not satisfied. If you take two arbitrary conditions and take an inner product, it does not give 0. It is not perpendicular to each other. So this set of d orbital is not allowed. You must include these d orbital, because this set of d function does not satisfy orthonormal condition. And now up to now, we are going to represent wave function with 3 contour number N, L, M, L. But according to experimental observation, there are 4th number needed. There are experimental observations that cannot be explained using only 3 contour number. To explain experimental observation, 4th contour number is needed. As you know, this 4th contour number is called spin contour number. The next topic is spin. The 4 experimental observations that cannot be explained by using only 3 contour number is this one. First one is Stonjella. Experiment. Second one is sodium doublet structure. Third one is anomalous Zeeman effect. Finally, the number of elements in the period is equal to n squared times 2, y2. These 4 experimental observations cannot be explained using only 3 quantum numbers. Today I am going to introduce Stonjella experiment, and the 2, 3, 4 are covered in next class. First, I'm going to explain what this experiment actually means. Sodium doublet anomalous Zeeman effect. As I said before, this is 1s orbital, this is 2s orbital, this is 2p orbital. As you know, 2s to 1s transition is not allowed. Only 2p to 1s orbital transition is allowed. But p orbital are considered of 3 orbital, and the 3p orbitals are degenerate. So 3 transition appears on the same peak. The single peak appears when magnetic field is not applied. But magnetic field is applied. Magnetic field is applied, as I said before. This 3p orbital split into 3 levels. And as I said before, 1s orbital does not change. It does not respond to magnetic field. So we observe distinct 3 peaks. This is the prediction based on the assumption that wave function are represented by 3 quantum numbers. This is a prediction, but according to actual experimental observation, when magnetic field is not applied, it is already split into 2 peaks, even though magnetic field is applied. and magnetic field is applied, this peak split it into 4 peaks. And this peak split it into 6 peaks. Very complicated pattern is appeared. So this structure is called double lap. This peak phenomenon is called, as I said before, magnetic field is applied. The peak is split is called Zeeman effect. But very split, very complicated. So this one is called anomalous Zeeman effect. Because the pattern is much more complicated than this one. This one is called normal Zeeman effect. But actually what observed is the anomalous Zeeman effect. In it, very complicated pattern appears. So these one are all related to the spin. And for this one, the first period, hydrogen, helium, we have 2 atoms. In second period, lithium to neon, we have 8 atoms in the second period. In the third period, the number of elements in the third period is 18. This number can be expressed very literally 2n scale. This one, when n equal 1, 2. When n equal 2, 8. When n equal 3, 18. So the question is, why 2 appears in front of n scale? So this one are all related to the spin. As you know, why 2 appears? Because electron has spin, and there are only 2 spins that are allowed, spin up, spin down. So 2 can be explained using Pauli exclusion principle. Today I'm going to explain Stern-Zella experiment. In Stern-Zella experiment, hydrogen atom is fired through the inhomogeneous magnetic field. And the question, what happens to the hydrogen atom? Is this one deflected or goes straight? According to the prediction based on the only 3 quantum number, it passed through straight. Because the hydrogen atom does not have magnetic moment. Because this is atomic level, and definitely hydrogen atom is in the 1s orbital, and the angular momentum in the 1s orbital is 0. So hydrogen atom does not have magnetic moment. So hydrogen atom does not respond to the magnetic field. So it goes straight. But according to actual experiment, we have the beam split into 2 paths. So this one cannot be explained using 3 quantum numbers. Then how to explain this one? The striking result is that the first striking result is that why hydrogen atom is split, even though it has no angular momentum. But assume that the electron is now in the 3p orbital, and the electron in the 2p orbital has magnetic moment because it has angular momentum. But there are 3 different orientations. So if the electron in the 2p orbital, hydrogen atom must split into 3 paths. Right? What happens when the electron is in the 3d orbital? Then it split into 5th path. So if the electron in the 2p or 3d orbital, or the distinct path must be odd number. 1, 3, or 5. But according to experimental result, it is split into even number path. This is the question. So So scientists argue that the electron has another type of angular momentum. First angular momentum is orbital angular momentum. The L quantum number represents the orbital angular momentum. But to explain Stern-Zella experiment, scientists discovered that there are new type of angular momentum must exist to explain this kind of experimental observation. The angular momentum is called spin angular momentum. The L quantum number represents orbital angular momentum. Then S quantum number represents spin angular momentum. Then the question is, what is the value of spin angular momentum quantum number? This is the question. But to determine the spin quantum number, we must take a look at the basic concept of angular momentum. So L quantum number is given. There are corresponding magnetic quantum number ml, and so the possible magnetic quantum number ml is 1, 0, minus 1. Okay, it ranges from L to minus L in integer step. For L equal to possible value for ml equal to 0, 1, 0, minus 1, minus 2, and end it. So we have 5 states is possible, right? But when angular momentum quantum number is integer, the number of states is odd. When the angular momentum quantum number is integer, the number of possible states is odd. But we observe that even number of states is possible. So we conclude that spin angular momentum quantum number is not integer. It is a half integer, right? So to explain the quantum number S, we are going to assume that some unknown element, when passed through magnetic field, assume that it is split into 4 paths. Then I'm going to determine the spin angular momentum of X. What is S? When the beam is split into 4, then the answer is 2/3. Why? Given ms, what is the possible value of ms? Ms starts with 3/2, and then 1/2, and then minus 1/2, and then minus 3/2, and end it. So when s equals 3/2, we obtain 4 possible states given. So this spin quantum number explain experimental observation. When the beam path is split into 4 paths, it means that the spin quantum number is 3/2. Then how about hydrogen atom? For hydrogen atom, it is split only 2. Then what is the quantum number of S? It is 1/2. Why? Given S, we can define ms. It starts 1/2, and the next one is minus 1/2, and end it. So we have only 2 possible states is possible when S equals 1/2. So to explain Stern-Zella experiment, we must say that the spin quantum number S 1/2. Right? So in this way, we can explain Stern-Zella experiment. So today we explain Stern-Zella experiment using the concept of spin. Next time we are going to explain this 234 using spin. Okay. Let's see. See you tomorrow.